Peninsula Mulitfaith Coalition. And sort of the idea behind what we're doing today and hoping to do in the future is have a way for our young people, our teens, to get together, number one, and just learn about each other's faith and beliefs and traditions so that we can see what we have in common and appreciate what we have that's in common and also different. Just ask questions and get to know more about other faith traditions.
Great, so this is just going to be a very general, not super in-depth overview of Hinduism, because I guess as you can see, we are a very diverse religion. We do have, it's practiced all over the world, and because so many people practice it, so many people have a different interpretation of it. So this is just my interpretation and what I have been taught. You may have heard different interpretations of certain stories, of certain beliefs. This is just my interpretation, and generally, in my view, there is no wrong way to practice Hinduism, or there's no wrong way to practice any religion in my mind. So if you may have heard of a different system, different way of practicing or a different way of doing something, maybe just be open to what I also have to say, but be also open to I'm not contradicting what anyone else has previously told you about Hinduism. So here's some just general facts about Hinduism. As I mentioned, there is no known founder or no known prophet of Hinduism. It is the oldest surviving religion in the world. It does date back to about 4,500 to 5,000 BCE. It's the third largest religion in the world, right after Christianity and Islam, with over 1 billion practitioners globally. And it is one of four dharmic traditions, the four dharmic traditions being Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism. So what is our concept of God? Well, as you can see, we do have so many different idols and we do have so many different gods. So you would think Hinduism is polytheistic, right? It's a little more complicated than that. No, we're actually not polytheistic. So as Hindus, what we believe in is we believe in one God. And that one God is called Brahm. And Brahm is a spiritual energy. It is the energy that is all around us. It is within us, within every living being, and is also within each of the forms of gods that we have. So why we have different forms of God is because this Brahm, this energy, has manifested itself into different incarnations, different gods, over a period of time to protect. And traditionally the story is that each of these gods will have come down to earth at one time or another to protect earth from some very bad evil, from demons or something horrible, right? So that's why we have so many different gods. But really, everything is just the energy of Brahm. And actually, according to a survey taken in 2019 to 2020, very few Hindus, only 7%, actually believe that there are like individually multiple gods. The most common view is that held by 61% of Hindus is that there's only one God with many manifestations, as you can see. And about 29% of Hindus say that there's only one God. The Hindus believe that everybody has this energy, this cosmic energy, this Brahm inside each and every one of us. So every single one of us here today, and your family and friends outside, and everybody in the world actually has Brahm in them. So we're all God, if you think about it. So one concept you may have heard Dilipji talk about, you may have heard other people talk about, you will hear me talk about a little bit more, is called Dharma. And this is basically the meaning of life that you have. It's why you were put on this earth. What is your duty? What is your responsibility to the world? For example, as a student, our duty is to study and try and do well in school and learn. So can you guys think of any other duties we have as people, like what your dharma might be as a teacher, as a parent, as a child? Anybody? Yeah.
As a citizen to serve others?
Yeah, as a citizen to serve others, or also just to follow the rules, right, that have been created by the government. Anyone else? Yeah.
The government to create fair and like to create fair rules, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like the government is meant to protect us. Their dharma is to do that and to create fair laws. Yes.
the rules of the road and just be safe.
Yeah, as a driver, you don't want to be a random driver who's driving everywhere. As somebody who's learning to drive, that might be me. But, but my dharma as a driver, or anybody's dharma as a driver, would be to follow the rules of the road. So these are some great examples, and they're definitely, and dharma is really just your duty in life and what your responsibility is. And maybe with that driving example, it can be sometimes hard to follow the rules of the rules of the road. Can be hard sometimes to follow your dharma. But the point of Hinduism and the point of many of the gods and the stories I'm going to tell you is that all of them have shown us that why is it important to follow your dharma? Why is it necessary? Because if not everybody's following their dharma, it creates like a more chaotic and chaos-filled world, right? Just like if somebody is not following the rules of the road when they're driving. So religious texts. Hinduism actually does not have one sole religious text like the Bible or the Torah. We actually have multiple scriptures that we follow and we consider to have equal importance. And I'm just going to show you a few of the really common ones, are the most popular ones. So one of the most common religious scriptures is called the Vedas. There are four. The Rig Veda, which it contains mantras or sacred prayers that are recited by a head priest during a worship ceremony. The Yajurved, which discusses more of the rituals that you need to follow when you're performing a worship ceremony. The Samaved, which just takes the concepts of the Rigved and the mantras and the holy prayers and puts them to a more melodic and melodic voice and into harmony. And the Atharved, which is actually a little bit more different from the first three. The Atharved tells you what you should do in your daily life, and it's kind of like a cheat sheet almost for what you should do in your day-to-day, like your steps, such as like it tells you about what lifestyle you should live if you want to have a long and healthy life, how to get rid of illnesses, how to avoid sadness, and things like that. And another religious text we have that you also may have heard of is the Ramayana. And this basically talks about the life and the story of Lord Ram. But basically, Lord Ram was one of 4 sons of the king Dashrath of Ayodhya. And the 4 brothers, they are Lord Ram, Prince Bharat, Prince Shatrughan, and Prince Lakshman. Prince Lakshman is also up there on the left next to Lord Ram. And they all grew up, they lived a happy life, they're great siblings, right? They loved each other. And one day, as they've grown up, right, one of King Dashrath's wives, Kaikai, wanted her son, Bharat, to become king. However, Lord Ram was actually set to become king next because he was the oldest. So she goes to King Dashrath and says, I want my son Bharat to become king. So she asks King Dashrath to exile Lord Ram and his wife for 14 years to the jungle, and for her son to become king. And basically that happens because one of the key concepts of Hinduism is you always have to, if you made a promise to somebody, you have to follow through. And King Dashrath had promised his wife that whatever she says, he would do. So he now has to do it, even though it made him really sad. So Lord Ram, his wife Sita, and Prince Lakshman all go off to the jungle. And one day, Sita is kidnapped by a demon named Ravan. And she's kidnapped and taken away to Lanka. You may have heard of Lanka. It's off the coast of India. She was actually kidnapped and taken to Lanka. And with the help of Hanuman, who you can see, he's the monkey god right at the feet of Lord Ram, his biggest devotee. He helps him and Prince Lakshman go find Sita and rescue her from Ravan. Ravan and Ram engage in a big battle, and eventually, because good always wins over evil, Lord Ram is able to defeat Ravan and successfully is able to bring Sita back. So by the time all of this has happened, 14 years have passed, Lord Ram returns back to Ayodhya, his kingdom, and he is crowned king. So his story really just emphasizes that idea of victory of good over evil. Good will always prevail over evil, even when it seems like it's going to be really hard. but it also emphasizes the importance of dharma, or following one's duty, because Ram's duty as a son was to follow whatever his parents say, even if it maybe not what was not right, even if it was something that hurt him. Your duty as a child is to follow what your parents say. So another very common religious text that you may have actually heard of, this is a little more common in our Western society, is the Bhagavad Gita. And this was a part of the great Indian epic, the Mahabharata, which described a war between the Pandav brothers and the Kaurav brothers. The Gita specifically describes a dialogue between Prince Arjun and Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna, you can see, is right here at the end with the flute in his hand. That's Lord Krishna. And basically, one of the Pandav brothers, Arjun, is telling Krishna that he doesn't think he can go through with the war. He doesn't think he can actually kill people, even though, according to his dharma as a warrior is to fight in wars. So on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna is telling him that no, you must follow your dharma, you must follow your duty, even though it may cause struggles, even though it may cause pain, you must follow this. But he also explains a lot about what the meaning of life is and what divinity is and how you can actually achieve divinity. And one of the key and one of these ways is through actually following your dharma. If you're somebody who is always following your dharma, always following your duty, even in times when it seems very hard, you can actually achieve enlightenment and reach God. So how do we pray? So we do prayers through puja. Puja just means worship in Hindi. And Hindus worship through many methods, one of which being we light Theas, which are just candles, and they represent goodness and purity. By lighting, the flame of the diya represents the light in our souls, and light removes darkness. So by lighting a diya, you're trying to remove darkness from your own soul. When we fold hands in this Namaste position, that's a sign of respect and honor. That is a sign of respect and honor to anybody when you do it, but especially towards God. We close our eyes when we pray in order to isolate yourself from distractions around you, especially if you're coming to a busy temple. But you can pray anywhere, as I'm sure many of you do or may know. You can pray anywhere. So when you close your eyes, it's really about focusing inwards and focusing on yourself and focusing on your prayers to God, but not focusing towards anyone else. We also offer food to God, and this is called prasad. Basically what happens is we offer fruits or sweets or water to God, and we present it to God during the puja or during the worship ceremony, and God will bless it and return it to us, and that returning of the food makes it sacred and is the God's blessings to us when we do eat it. And these are some Theas, and then, so this is what a puja thali or a puja plate would look like. We have the diya, which obviously symbolizes purification and goodness. We have moli or rakhi string, and this string is tied around your own wrists. I have some tied on my wrist, and is tied around God's wrists to symbolize long life and protection against your enemies. Specifically, it's a sign that God has decided that they will help end the enemies of your life. We have kumkum powder, or vermilion powder, and it's considered an auspicious symbol in Hinduism, and it symbolizes good health when it's put on others. And specifically, it's an auspicious sign of married women who put vermilion on to both protect their husbands' lives and their own. There's water and rice, and this water and rice symbolizes purity, and the rice specifically represents growth and prosperity. And obviously there's prasad, or the holy offerings that we've given God, and oftentimes some people include mini prayer books on their puja thali. Other common things that I have not depicted include bells that are used to wake up the gods, and incense sticks, which are used to create a pleasant smell around the atmosphere. Okay. So we do have many holidays, One of the most common, which you've probably all heard of, is Diwali, the Festival of Lights. And normally this occurs in late October, early November on a moonless night. And it celebrates the return of Lord Ram, who we're just talking about from the Ramayana. It symbolizes his return, his wife Sita and brother Lakshman's return from 14 years of exile. And we often light diyas on Diwali, and it is said that the reason we light diyas, one of the very common reasons that we light diyas is the people of Ayodhya lit diyas along the way of their kingdom to ensure that Lord Ram wouldn't get lost in the darkness of the night without the moon. So they lit diyas around their homes, on the roadways, on the paths, all the way leading up to the palace, so that way he would be able to see his way and be able to get home. So often people decorate with diyas. They have colorful rangolis made of colorful patterns on the floors. They wear new clothes. They play with like firecrackers or sparklers, and they worship the goddess Lakshmi, who represents prosperity, and the Lord Ganesha, who is the remover of obstacles, in order to remove the obstacles and bring prosperity for the upcoming year. Okay, so another festival we have, which actually just happened recently in March, is called Holi, and this is the festival of colors and is also the festival of spring. And one popular story of how Holi began, it begins with the demon king Hiranyakashipu, who wanted everyone in the world to worship him. He didn't want anybody to worship any of the gods. He wanted everyone to worship him. But his own son, Prahlad, was actually a devotee of Lord Vishnu. And Hiranyakashipu tries multiple times to try and kill Prahlad, because Prahlad kept preaching and talking about how great Lord Vishnu is. And he wasn't only talking about his father. He wasn't worshiping his father. And Hiranyakashipu obviously didn't like that. So he asks his sister, Holika, to sit in the fire with Prahlad on her lap. And Holika was actually blessed by the gods with a special boon that she would not burn in fire. So she could sit in the fire and she would not burn at all. But the idea was that Prahlad would burn and then die. But Prahlad, sitting on Holika's lap in the fire, was praying to Lord Vishnu. And Holika burnt instead of Prahlad. So Holi is actually named after Holika, and Holi celebrates the triumph of good over evil, as many of the other holidays and scriptures we celebrate did, and explains how harm cannot come over any true devotee. If you're a true devotee of God, any God of your choosing, from your religion, from our religion, from any religion, no harm will ever befall you. And so it's celebrated through throwing colorful powders at one another, water gun fights, singing, dancing, and of course, eating sweets. Okay, so I'm going to go over some very common questions about Hinduism and Hindu culture that many of you may have thought or may have heard or may know about. So what's that dot on your forehead? It's called a Bindy, and traditionally it was an auspicious symbol of a married woman. Nowadays, anybody can wear it. I'm not married, but I can wear it too. Anybody can wear it if they want to. And according to Hindu beliefs, it represents everyone's inner third eye. And this idea and concept of a third eye comes from Lord Shiva. He's all the way over there at the end. And he's said to be the god who is the destroyer of all evil. And it's said that one day when he opens his eyes, he will actually destroy the whole world, because at the point when he opens his eyes, the whole world would have succumbed to evil, like there was no goodness left in it. So that's why he will open his third eye. But us wearing a bindi isn't such a drastic meaning, right? I'm not like gonna open my eyes and suddenly burn the world. But really when we wear the third eye, it actually represents our own inner third eyes, that we are focusing towards God and that we have gods inside us. And the bindi kind of represents, it's not the destruction of the evil around us, but the evil within. And they're just fun to wear sometimes. So what's Namaste? Why are you guys always doing this? So Namaste is a gesture that is used to say hello or goodbye to people, but is also a gesture we use to honor and respect God. So as we kind of went over earlier, Hindus, we believe that everybody has God in them because everybody has a piece of Brahm in them. Everybody has this cosmic energy within. So when we're actually saying Namaste, it's our God, our soul, saluting your soul. It's saluting the God within you. So when I'm bowing and I'm saying Namaste to you, it means I'm saluting the God within you. And that's why we also do it towards our gods when we are praying. We are saluting and honoring and respecting the gods that they are. Why do you have a swastika? Okay, this is a little bit of a controversial thing. This is Hitler's swastika. This is a Hindu swastika. They are not the same thing. They do not mean the same thing. And I'd like to be very clear that Hitler and the Nazis' ideals are nothing that Hindus ever follow or ever think about. We actually have a swastika, and it's completely different from the Hitler swastika because that was actually called a Hawking cross. It wasn't actually called a swastika. It's a Hawking cross. And that was a symbol of terror and horribleness, and it's not something that our swastika actually means. So if you ever see this in a temple or in somebody you know is Hindu's home, more often than not, it is a representation of goodness and prosperity and purity. It's a sign for positivity and prosperity, and it actually represents the wheel of eternity. It doesn't represent Hitler's ideals. It doesn't represent anything like that. It represents prosperity, and it represents positivity within Hindu culture. So if you see that next time when you're coming into a temple, you may have actually seen it in a previous slide I had the puja thali. It had a swastika on it. That actually wasn't like a representation of Hitler or the Nazis. It was a representation of having purity and having positivity in one's own life. So do Hindus respect other religions, or do we believe that other religions exist? And yes, we actually do. The core of Hinduism is to find enlightenment and to attain God, right? And I'm sure many other religions also believe in this. But we, as Hindus, believe there are multiple paths. There's not any one way. Just like there's not really any one dharma, right? My dharma might be different from my mother's dharma. It might be different from your guys' dharma, right? Everybody's dharma is different. The paths to attain enlightenment and to achieve and reach God is different. So we actually see different religions as different paths to attain God. Actually, the Rig Veda, which is one of the oldest scriptures that we have, a quote from it is, "Truth is one, the wise call it by various names." So this is actually like a representation that, yes, we understand that the truth in all religions is that God is one. There is God, and that we must achieve enlightenment towards God. However, there are different ways to achieve God. That could be through different religions, or if you do believe in Hinduism, it could be through different paths within Hinduism. So that's just a basic overview of Hinduism. Do you guys have any questions? Anything confusing? I'm welcome to any questions anybody has.